Hello friends, and thank you for visiting the SEDM website at sedm.org and watching this training video on how to use the Forms and Publications page. This is a very important skill because we refer to the Forms and Publications page hundreds of times in our publications, so you need to know thoroughly how to use it and how to quickly locate forms by either their form number or the name of the form. What you have in front of you is the opening page of the SEDM website at sedm.org. We have it open in the Google Chrome version 53 browser because that happens to be the most popular browser in the market right now. It's got about a 60% market share on Windows 10, which is what we're running. Before we open up the form, we want to emphasize that there are basically 4 different levels of access for the Forms and Publications page right up here. And those 4 levels are, you're not logged in at all and you're not a member. That would just be basic public access. The next level would be compliant members only, which is available to basic members. The next level is member subscribers, which would be people who have both basic member access and compliant member access, as well as member subscriber access. If you want to be a basic member, which is free, then you click right over here on register. While you're not logged in, you click on register, and then you can register to log in. If you want a video on how to register or log in or log out, it's right here. Click on this link. If you want, and by the way, if you register and then you become a basic member, if you register right here. And when you do that, you will also have compliant member access as well. Compliant member only access as well. If you want to be a member subscriber, then you have to click over here on member subscriptions. Member subscribers have access in addition to many additional materials not available to basic members or compliant member only members. So you'd have to click on this link here, and that would direct you to describe what it is. And also, if you want to join, you would normally have to go through a bookstore transaction as well. And whatever level you're at, you must be logged in to have access to all the content on the site. So right up in the upper right-hand corner here of the opening page, we would have to log in. It says we need to log in right here. So we will, and we're going to do that because we want to show you all the content. So we're going to type in our username. And then we'll hit enter, and it will log us in. And after we log in, it shows us our username right here in the upper right corner, and we can click here to log out. We also know we're logged in because now if we click on the hamburger menu on the right hand side of the menu on the top, it shows us a log out as well over here. If we had not been logged in, it would have provided only a login prompt over here. So we'll close this. So now that we're logged in, we can open up the Forms and Publications page, which is right up here. Click on it. Now, if after we open up this page, we can go back to the main page by either hitting the back button here, or we can click on back to home, which will take us right back to the page that we just came from. We'll click on that just to show you. There it is. So we'll click back on the Forms and Pubs page. So that's how we navigate back and forth between the main interface and the Forms and Pubs page. The other important thing is we have a little blue area in the upper left corner here of this screen, and this will take us to the site home, which we just got back from, just like this link up here, the back to home button. And then we have 3 other entries here. This one here will take us to the home page. For instance, if we had opened up one of these links over here and the display changed and we want to go back to the opening display, then we click here, Forms home again, so we right back to the beginning of the forms page. We can also click on this link and see all the forms on a single page here, but the list shows up on the right. So this is all of the forms available on the site, not the litigation tools, but just the forms. And we can scroll down here and look at them all. And why would we want to do that? Well, we might want to search for a form by its name or its form number, and we can use the search tools built into Google Chrome to do that. So if we wanted to find form 01.017, we could hit Control F as in Foxtrot, and there it is. And we can type in 01.017, and there it is. It highlights it for us. It finds it. And we can scroll down here and see all the other places where it's mentioned because it'll be highlighted. So that's helpful. We can also use this feature, this All Forms feature on the upper left corner here, to locate forms by their name. So we have a form here called Press Questionnaire, so we will type that in. There it is. It found it. Okay. You can see it highlighted here. So that's how and it says it found one hit, and it says there's one more, so we'll hit the down arrow, and there's the other one right there. Okay, so that's how we can search all the forms on the site by name or form number if we want to locate it, as long as we click over here on All Forms. Another technique to do the same thing, which is a little less cluttered, is to click on Switch to Single Window. And this will take basically this display and put the table of contents over here on the top instead. So we'll click on that, and there it is. So this is the same display that was on the left before, but now it's on the top. And we can click on this, and it'll take us to that section of the Forms and Pubs page that was on the right that we just got back from. Okay, so we can scroll back up again. We can also search here the same way. We can search for Press Question, just like we just did, and it'll find it for us. Okay, so, but let's hit the back and go back to the main form page. So now we know what all these options are in this blue area in the upper left corner. Okay, now the other thing we want to go over here is that on the left hand side, this is kind of like your table of contents. And so it's kind of like a switchboard. A good way to think of it is like a spreadsheet, where the right hand side is the list of items that you want to look at. In other words, the tab on the spreadsheet, the content of the tab. And then on the left would be the tabs on the spreadsheet on the bottom on your Excel spreadsheet. So you navigate around essentially the table of contents on the left to open up a different tab of the spreadsheet, so to speak, on the right. Okay. Those who are familiar with Excel, which is probably the most popular tool of all in the business world, ought to understand that. So now there's also 3 different levels of hierarchy on this table of contents on the left. And that would be the upper level, which is in green, and then we call that level 1. And then there's a level 2, which is all in yellow. So level 2 is always underneath level 1, just like an outline, a legal outline format. And then we have level 3, which is right under level 2, and that's in blue. Okay, so there are 3 levels, and so they're in legal outline mode, you might say. Now, if you open up a form, or if you're reading something and you have a reference to the form on our site, like for instance 01.017, then if that was the form you're looking at right here, 01.017, and you wanted to very quickly find where it was, in what section on the left that it was, you can go to this little column here that says form number. So if it was 01.017, so we know it started with 01 right there, and we know it was 017. So we know it's in this option, so we click on this. If we wanted to find 05.001, form number 05.001, we go down this column over here to the section that starts with 05, and then we know that it would be in there, because the XXX over here stands for all the possible values of numbers within that range. So 05XXX covers 05.001 through 05.999. So if the form number falls in that range, we know we would need to click here. We said 5.001, and so there it is. That's the one we're looking for. In some cases, we've actually fixed another digit on that number. So, and we've broken up a level 2 into multiple level 3 entries. And when we do that, we put numbers in front that correspond with the level, the sub-level that we're in. So in this case, 1.7.0 is 07.0. And so within that area on the content on the left here, then we could have 99 forms, XX, that's what it means, 99 forms. And those form numbers would go through 07.001 through 07.099. And then the next entry here would be the same. You can see it works the same way. It starts with a 1 instead of a 0, so it's 10001 through 1099. So you can see we have another 90 possible numbers to use before we use up the available form numbers in that range on the left over here. The other useful feature about all this is that these section numbers are relevant to a specific situation. So we might be looking for an index of forms and pubs by form number in section 1 here. But then in level 1, we also have the next item, which is situational index of forms and publications. So this is a list by situations that you're in of all the forms. So you can go to the various situations that you're in and find forms relevant to that situation. Likewise, we have electronic forms compilations in level 1, section 3 here, electronic form compilations. This is all the form sites where you can go to get copies of the forms. We have other form sites, places where you can download forms, government forms and private industry forms. We have tax collection response as well, section 5. So we have federal response letters right here. We have state response letters here. We have amended federal forms here, which is off the Family Guardian sister site that we're not responsible for. And we have federal forms off the IRS website, irs.gov. So let's go back to section 1.1 on the left, general. We can also see that the headings up here have the same color as the headings over here, so we know where we are. So we're in general and it's yellow, so over here. So we know we're in yellow general over here as well. If we went to a level 3 form, we'd see the same thing. It's blue, just like the blue over here, so they match. So this is a good way to find out where you are, very quickly correlate where you are on the right with where you are on the left. We can see that we clicked on section 1.7.0 guidance here. There it is. And we can see the next one is 1.7.1, which corresponds with 1.7.1 over here. So it's very neatly organized by subject matter on the left. And all the forms on the site, all of them are accessible from this one form. And we've tried to hide as much of the detail as possible to make it easy for you to locate a form very quickly without having this big, long list or catalog full of forms. The next thing we want to talk about is the arrangement of each one of these items on the right, each one of these sections when we click on them. So let's go to 1.4.0. And so let's go through the columns here so we know what these are. So the first column is the form number. So if you're looking for a form number, this whole thing is in sequence by the form number on the left. You know, you can tell that by this form number column here. Okay, so the first column is the form number. And if we click on that form number, we will actually open the form. And the next column is the source. And there are several possible values that can appear in this source column. If the source column is empty, that means anybody can click on the form number or the form name and open up the form, whether they're logged in or not, whether they're a member subscriber or compliant member only or basic member, they can still open the form. Anybody can open the form just by visiting the site, okay, if the source column is empty. The next value you'll see in this column is member subscriptions. So what that means is you have to be a member subscriber, number one, to open this form. And if you're not logged in, it won't open. And if you are logged in, it will open. Okay, now, and we've highlighted hot link this entry here so we can show you that when we open up that page, we get a description of what member subscriptions is and how it works, and we can join it. Okay, so that's what happens when we click on this link here to show you what it means and what it is and how to sign up. Okay, another value we'll see in this column is compliant members only. And what this means is that you must be at a minimum a basic member, and you must be logged in to open that form. And not only must you be a basic member, but you must be compliant with our member agreement and our path to freedom process. Okay, so in other words, we don't recommend using this form unless you're, first of all, a consenting member, and second of all, that you're compliant with and you're following our path to freedom process in the path to freedom form, okay, which is on the opening page. That's the form 09.015. In big letters, it says start here. Okay, that's the form you want to open up to become compliant, and it's free. Okay, so the other thing you'll see in this column sometimes is a sample. Like right here, you can see a sample. So if you right click on this and open it up, then you'll see a sample of that form. I guess that this particular sample link is bad. Okay, but if you click on that link, then you'll see sample. Okay, so those are the entries you'll see: blank, compliant member only, or member subscription. Those are the entries you'll see in the source column there. The next column we have is the format/size. Okay, so and we have icons that show you what kind of a document this is. So if it says PDF and it has the PDF symbol, that means it's a PDF form, and it means you must have a PDF reader installed on your computer to read it or open it up, and that would be something like Adobe Acrobat Reader. And sometimes you'll see other symbols, like here, Microsoft Word. That means this is an editable Microsoft Word format document that you can download and open up in Microsoft Word, which means you have to have Microsoft Word installed. Another thing you'll see is zip over here. So in this case, it even tells you the size, 106 kilobytes. So because it's a zip file, that means you have to have a zip utility installed on your system to create the zip. In this case, we're using Windows 10, and Windows 10 will open up zips for you and extract the documents that you want from the zip, but it will not create zips. You'll have to buy a third-party utility like pkzip or WinZip to do that, okay, or WinRAR or something like that, okay. So those are the main different types now of items you'll see on this. If we go back to Site Home here, to the opening page, then you'll see that. Actually, let's go back. That was the Site Home. I wanted the Forms Home. Okay, but on the opening page, you'll see some symbols here, and those symbols are the same symbols that we were just looking at in the right there, these symbols here, okay? So what we do is we show you what those symbols mean. So it could be a PDF, Adobe Acrobat PDF, and it has a link to go and install the PDF reader. We have the zip format, and it shows you how to get a decompression utility if you don't have one to open it up. Microsoft Word symbol, which means you need Office installed, or Microsoft Word. HTML is another thing you'll see, which means it's in a browser format. You can open it with your browser. You'll see a little Windows player here, which means H.264 MP4 file. That's the only format we use on the site, and you can open that format with any browser, whether it's Firefox or Chrome or Edge or Microsoft Windows Explorer. You can open up with any one of those, okay, without any special, programs installed to view it. Then we have Adobe Flash Player. Some content requires Flash Player, and that would include a lot of the stuff on YouTube. We don't actually have any Flash Player stuff on the site, but sometimes we'll link off the site to a Flash site. So you'll have to have Flash installed. In some cases, Flash is disabled on your browser, so you may have to figure out how to turn it on in order to view it. And this shows you how to install the Flash Player if you need it. Currently, it's built into Windows 10. It's also built into Chrome and Firefox. So you probably won't need to install it, but you may need to enable it within your browser. And lastly, we have a little speaker symbol, which means it's an audio file. All the audio files on the site are MP3 files. We don't normally use WAV files, but in very rare circumstances you might find one. Okay, so those are the different types of files you will find on the site. Let's go back to where we were. Okay, so that's the third column, the format and size of the file. The next column is it fillable? So if it's a PDF, then in some cases it'll be a form and you can fill it in. You can actually fill in the values and save it on your hard drive and reuse the filled in form for later reuse. Okay, so we actually have a column that says, is it fillable? And if it is, then you can save it and reuse it, filled in. And then you have the title of the form, and you can see it's hot linked, which means if you click on it, you'll open it up. We have a description of the form, which in this case is identified as the circumstances where the form is used. We have a column for related resources and information. In other words, related forms on the site or related articles that relate to this particular form. And then we have a column for the date of last revision. Okay, if we want to emphasize that if you're going to use a form from our site, you really, really need to use the very latest version of the form available. And a quick way to find out whether you have the latest version is to open the form up and look in the lower left corner. It'll tell you the rev date, and then compare that with what's here. Okay, the rev date that's here. So if we opened up this form and looked at it, we would see in the lower left corner right here, we'll hit a plus. There it is, see? Rev, right there, okay? So that's the date on this form, and so we just need to make sure that the version we have is later than the date that's here, which means we have the very latest version of the form in use. Because we make a lot of changes to the forms very frequently. We change, dozens of forms every day because there's lots of updates to the forms because the laws change or the procedures change or the regulations change or whatever else. So even if you already have the form downloaded and available on your local hard drive, it's probably a good idea to go back and get the latest from our site anyway, just to make sure, or at least compare whether you have the latest. And we know this creates trouble on your part because you may have taken the time to fill in the form. You may have downloaded a fillable form like this one here, and you may have filled it in, and then you find out you got to go back and download a later version, and then you got to go and fill it in and save it again. Well, sorry, there's nothing we can do about that. You're just going to have to bite the bullet here. Freedom is not a spectator sport, and it's only for the vigilant. So let's go back to the forms home again, and we want to emphasize some other things here. We want to give you a warning. This little pink box here is a warning on the proper use of these forms and the proper use of our site, in fact. And we emphasize that these forms are not a silver bullet and they don't come with any guarantees. Anyone can read and obtain the materials available through this website, and by doing so, they mandatorily become members of our fellowship. And we say here, our member agreement forbids you to employ, that is, use any of our tax information and services in any administrative or legal interactions with anyone in the government, court, or legal profession in disputing a tax liability unless and until you have downloaded and read our Path to Freedom and accomplished up to step 14 of section 2 and have become a member of our fellowship in full compliance with the member agreement for all tax years that you seek help with. So, you can't come to the site, like in 2016 or whatever it is, whatever time it is, and then go back and use our forms for previous years where you weren't a member or where you didn't even know about our site. You're not allowed to do that until you at least correct your government records to fix your status. So, because your civil status is really important, and making sure that it's corrected and making sure the government is aware of what it is really important. And you'll contradict yourself if your civil status is not correct. You'll contradict yourself by using our forms, which presume a certain civil status, and yet the tax years that you're using it for, when you weren't a member, you didn't have that status. So that's really important. And we also want to emphasize that the The information or services available through this website are not intended, recommended, or authorized for use as a substitute for your own diligent and committed study of the law, a crutch to help you permanently avoid studying or learning the law, legal or tax advice, or an insurance policy to divert any portion of the responsibility for your choice to use them away from you or onto anyone else but you, or a tool to facilitate violations of law or injurious behavior of any kind, or a tax shelter within the meaning of any revenue law. A tax shelter is a device used to reduce the liability of a statutory taxpayer, and those who are taxpayers may obtain but may not use our tax information or services with members of the legal profession or government. So why do we do all this? Because we just want to make sure that our materials are not misused, they're not misapplied, that they don't create any trouble for any third parties. Because you're contradicting yourself. You're claiming you're a non-taxpayer, you're claiming that you're not subject or that you don't owe a tax, and you're acting like otherwise by sending different forms in, like 1040s or whatever else. You can't. The walk and the talk have to match. If it quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, then it's a duck. You don't sit there and claim that you're a non-taxpayer or a non-resident or anything else, and then act like a resident or a privileged anything. It's just silly, and you're just making trouble for third parties, and we don't want to be any part of that. Okay, and we also emphasize that due diligence is important. You ought to try to do as much of your own homework as you can, and this form will be the method of doing. This Forms and Pubs page will be the method of doing that homework, because that's how you're going to locate forms to do research on a particular subject, and especially as pertains to the memorandums of law section over here, because that's where most of the research is in that memorandums of law section. Now, if we are a member subscriber, we can click on the form here. We're logged in right now as the test user, and it just so happens that the test user has member subscriber permission. So if we click on this, we'll see a new form. If we click on this link, then we can download the item. So we click on the link, and it'll ask us to save it. And we'll click save, and there it is. It downloaded the form. Now, if we were not logged in, even though we were a member subscriber, then that wouldn't work. And let me demonstrate. So we'll go over here. We can click on the hamburger menu and see that we're logged in, because it gives us a log out option. So we'll log out. And once we log out, look at that. Now it gives us a warning. It says that there's no download button, and it tells us we need to be a member subscriber to download it. So we just have to be careful here how we do this. So let's go back to home again. We'll click on here, site home, and we'll log back in again. Hit enter, and that'll take us back to be logged in again. So you can see, and let's close this. We don't need this anymore. Okay, so we can see how this works on the Forms and Pubs page. It's controlling access to the forms based on being logged in and what our membership level is. And as we said before, there's 4 levels. You're not logged in at all and you're not a member, which means, if it has blank in this column, then this row, then you can access it. And we have the compliant member only content, which requires you right here, which requires you to be logged in as a basic member and also compliant. And then we have member subscriptions, which requires you to be logged in and to join the member subscriptions separately through the bookstore. Okay, so those are the different levels, the 3 levels or 4 levels in this source column. That's how we can determine whether we can find the form or not, and open it. So let's go back to section 1.1 on the left, and we want to emphasize a couple more things. When you're viewing, most of the documents on the site are PDFs, and the easiest way to view PDFs without having to install an extra viewer or anything else is to use the Google Chrome browser, because the Google Chrome browser has a a PDF reader built in, and it is a very good PDF reader, and it works better than the one on Microsoft Edge or Firefox at this time. As of Firefox version 49 or Windows 10 anniversary build. Okay, that the PDF viewer on Google Chrome, which is what we're going to be looking at here in a second, is better than those other two browsers, the one that's built in. Now, obviously, you can install, the Adobe free Adobe Reader, Adobe Acrobat Reader. You can do that if you want, but it won't work within this browser. You would only use it if you're trying to open it locally on your hard drive, and not through the browser. Okay, but let's open up the member agreement here. We'll right-click on it and open it up. And we want to show you some things about this reader, which is really cool. Okay, first of all, if you click on the plus sign, you can display one page at a time, and then you can just hit the page up, or page down in this case, then page up to go through the pages, which is kind of cool. And all the controls disappear while you're reading. Okay, but if you move your mouse around up to the top, all the controls come back. And if you want to zoom in, you can zoom in like this. Or if you want to go back to a page view, you click on this. Okay, the other really neat thing is that if you want to print this PDF right from the browser, you can click on print. If you want to download this PDF while you're reading it, you can do this and download it locally. If you want to reload the page, you can do this. But the most important feature of all of this is this one little thing over here, this bookmark symbol. And we use it all the time. Okay, and that bookmark symbol, by the way, this bookmark option is not available currently in Microsoft Edge, but you will see it in Firefox. They have the equivalent of an outline mode on the left here where you can navigate through like you do when you have the PDF open separately on your desktop. It'll also have that little navigation pane on the left when you open up the document. But the Google Chrome has it built in. And it's a really useful way to navigate through the document. So if you click on this, you'll see essentially an outline of the document. And this is the same outline that would apply in the table of contents. So we can drill down into different levels. We can click on this, and it takes us to that section, purpose of joining, 1.2, and that's what we clicked on, 1.2. To make it a little more obvious, if we go to the memorandums of law, which can be quite large, and we right-click and open it up in a new tab here, then we can see that there's a lot of material. And let's click on the little plus thing over here so we can see one page at a time, so it doesn't distract us, by scrolling through a piece of a page at a time. And we can see there's a large outline of materials here that we can navigate through. And if we want to quickly go to that section rather than paging up and paging down to find the right page number, we can use the bookmark view over here, and we'll see the same outline in here as we have over here. And so if we wanted to go to section 11.1, we go to 11 here, click it open, and click there, and it takes us straight there. Okay, this is a really neat way to find information very quickly about a particular subject. So, we would start with the table of contents here and find out what we want to look at or where we want to go. And then we would go to the bookmark and find it over here, 11.1 again, like this. Okay, the other neat thing about this PDF viewer is you can search. So if we, let's go back to the page view again. So let's say we want to find the word, let's just search for a word. Okay, we'll look for the word corporatization right here in the table of authorities. Okay, we'll scroll through. So and the way we do this is we hit Control and then the F as in Foxtrot key. And then we type in the word we want to look for, C-O-R-P-O-R. There. Okay, so it found it in 3 different places, and we're looking at one of those right now, and it highlighted the item. So, if you want to search this particular form for a particular subject that you're interested in and find out what it says about it, this is a really neat, quick, and dirty way while you're reading to look for stuff. And very useful. Okay, and in effect, it behaves very similar to the search function that we used over on the Forms and Pubs page when you hit Control and then F, as in Foxtrot. It works exactly the same way. So that skill is transportable between the PDFs and the HTML pages. on the site. Okay, so let's close this tab and we'll go back to the section 1.5, which is memorandums of law. And the other thing we want to show you is that, if you don't want to change this screen and you're going through this list one at a time or through multiple items and you want to look at them one at a time uh, without affecting any of the screens you're looking at, then you can open it up in a new tab. So you can right click on the item and then you can open it in a new window, or you can open it in a new tab, or you can open it in a new incognito window, or you can save it locally, or you can copy the address. So if we wanted to open it up in a new tab, we select that and it opens up that document without disturbing this page that we're viewing. It opens it up in a new tab so we can look at it and decide if this is what we want, and then we can go back to our list again and go to the next one. Okay, or we could open it up in a new window like this. Okay, it opens up a new window, and when we're done we could close the new window. Okay, there's lots of different ways to navigate. And this stuff may seem trivial to experienced computer users out there like us, but we don't assume any level of knowledge of the people watching this video, and we're going for the lowest common denominator to teach them most of what they know to use this particular form and this page. The next thing we want to show you is other types of content on the site. We just showed you how to use PDFs, and in some cases there is other content, like in this case YouTube content, because it has a video symbol here. In some cases we have audio content. So this is an audio. We can see from the icon here, it's an audio. And in this particular case, it is located on, if we hover over the top of that link in the lower left corner, we can see where it's from. Okay, let's try that. We can see it's from archive.org. So all of our content, most of it, except for the member subscription content, is available on many other different sites. So for instance, if we wanted to go back to home, let's right click on this and open it in a new tab to show you that so we don't lose our space here, our spot. Okay, but if you look in the opening page of the site down here, you can see there are lots of other sites that we post our content on. We post our books, our PDFs on Google Play and Google Books, on the Scribd site, on archive.org, and on docs.com. And if it's a video, we also post it on YouTube, the YouTube channel down here. And if you click on any one of these links on the bottom of the opening page, then you can go directly to our channel on that particular site and view our content. So if we wanted to look at archive.org, it automatically opens a new tab, and here's all of our content on that site. And the neat thing about the archive.org site is that you can post PDFs and audios and videos all in the same channel. Whereas on YouTube, for instance, you can only post videos, or on Scribd or docs.com, you can only post PDFs. So, but you can post them all here. So if you want a good place to find our content and all the types of content, whether it's audio or video or whatever, then archive.org is probably the best place to go. And obviously you're not going to find our member subscriber content or our compliant member only content on archive.org, but you will find everything else, and it'll be searchable and viewable. Like for instance, let's click on this one and we'll see just how pretty it is when you want to view it. This is the money laundering enforcement scam there. So we can click on pages and like this, or we can maximize them to get the full screen view like that. So it behaves just like a book. So it's pretty darn cool. We can scroll through the document like this, move through it like this. It's pretty cool. So let's close the archive.org version of Form 05.044, the money laundering enforcement scam. Okay, so we post our content on a lot of different places. Okay, and you can't tell just by looking at this list where it is, but if you hover over the link, you can see where it is by looking in the lower left corner on the Google Chrome browser. Okay, this one's on archive.org, and this one's on locally here on the site because it's a PDF. So the bigger type of content, like videos, like this one here, if we open this up, it'll open up the video. Okay, so there's our video. Okay, and you can read a summary of the video, and you can see all the accompanying materials. Like this goes with the this form here. And you can also find that on archive.org, and we give you a link to it. So, so you can see that most of these items here in this list are, videos and audios on the archive.org site. And if they're PDFs, normally they're on locally on our site. But they're also available on archive.org, but we typically link to the local version as well. And for those types of things that are grouped together, like this one, where this is a single document, and then there's lots of training that goes with it, like the audio and the videos that go with this single document, then we'll put a little note right next to it in the notes column here with that describes what form that it goes with. So we can see that all three of these videos here go with form 12.027, which is this one right up here, form 12.027. We can see that this training audio goes with the same form. So all these things are grouped together. And if you want to download these items, you can download them just like you would any other PDF. If it's an audio, you can download it from archive.org. When you open it up, you'll see that right here. You can download the MP3 right there. Click on the download link, or you can just listen to it online, however you want to do it. And so this is how you would access different types of content on the site, and it also explains, the other places that you can find it. And another reason we mention this is because, you may not be able to reach our site for whatever reason. We might, somebody might not like us, or they might try to jam the site so you can't reach it. And if you can't reach it, then you just go to the then you just need to bookmark all these little other third-party sites where we post our content. Just bookmark all these on your browser so you can always get to the materials, even if the primary site at SEDM.org is down. And we do that for backup purposes. We do that for archiving purposes. We do that in case we get picked up by a black suburban and kidnapped and taken to Guantanamo Bay or whatever else because they don't happen to like what we have to say about their criminal acts. Okay, and so just make sure that you bookmark all these links down here to the third-party sites where we post our content. Another thing we want to show you is that there's a correlation between some of the things on the left here and some of the stuff available on the opening page. So if we click on the opening page and open that up on a separate tab, and then we click on like federal response letters here, you can see this is federal index of federal tax notice and letter responses. If we go to the opening page, we can see that that item is also available on the opening page under bookstore, which would be right here. Federal response letters here. That's the same thing here. And it would take us to the same place as this is here. Likewise, the state response letters here page is on the opening page under bookstore, state response letters, and so on. And we also have this amended federal forms here. And notice we have this symbol off-site, okay? And that means it's not on our site. It means we're not responsible for it. And it means if you have trouble on this particular form because it doesn't open or you don't like what's there or you want to correct it, that we're not responsible for changing or explaining anything that's on this page. Okay, it may look similar to what's on our site, but we're not responsible for it. It's a third-party site. And we don't answer questions, we don't support it, we don't fix it. The only thing we do for Fam Guardian is answer copyright issues with third parties. That's it. Another thing that people frequently need is they need essentially a downloadable catalog of all of our forms, or they might want to look at what versions of the forms that there were. And they might need that because they have somebody who's in jail and who wants a catalog of our stuff so that they can mail it to them in jail, so that they can know what they're to ask for to the person who's on the outside of jail that is going to send them the forms from our site. There are lots of people, essentially what we do is a prison ministry as well. And ironically, everything we do actually is a prison ministry because this whole planet is the prison because of the corrupt politicians that run it and who have enslaved everybody. So the whole planet is the prison. And each individual country are the cells of the prison. And we're all prisoners. And if you're a citizen or a resident under their statutes, you're a prisoner. But for those people who are not only those types of prisoners, but who are also physically in a jail as government property, those people need a list of our resources. So we have two items here for you that do that. SEDM Resource Index, and if we right click on that and open it up, we will see a listing, a numerical listing, 26 pages at this point, form 01.008, that has a listing of all the forms and publications and videos on the site, the format that they're in, the size, the form number, where it came from, and the store item number if it's in the store, and so on. So this also has the store items in here as well, in addition to what you might find on the forms page. Let's close this one again. And we also have a SEDM resource revision history, form 01.009. The last one we viewed was 01.008. So if we open this up, it's a lot longer. It's many more pages long. It's 167 pages actually here. And what this does is it not only lists all the forms, but it also lists every version of each form and the date it was published. And that might be useful if you want to go back over it and look at an old form or find out how current the version that you have is. Okay. So the other thing we want to emphasize here is we told you that in some cases on this column you'll see bookstore. Okay. Like I think in section 11 you'll see some of that. Okay, bookstore right there. See? So, and that means it's in the bookstore. And so if you open that up, you'll see a page from the bookstore open up. Okay, it'll show you. Okay, so that's how you go to the bookstore and look at that item. And there aren't a lot of those bookstore items in here, and they're not all in here. For instance, one of the things that you won't find anywhere on this forms and pubs page is the response letters. They're not on here. They don't have form numbers. They don't have revision histories or anything like that. They're just the only place you can look at those or find or search for those is down here under federal response letters and state response letters here. That's the only place you can look for them because they're not on the forms and pubs page directly. Okay, they're on this right-hand side here, but they're not published in the catalog, for instance. Okay, if you wanted to download one of these, then you'd have to click on it and get the response from the bookstore instead. Okay, and we have the revision date over here for that. Within this outline on the left, let's go back to general again. Or actually, let's go back to the forms home there. Within this outline on the left, there are a lot of different categories, and most of them relate to, franchises, taxation, freedom, rights, sovereignty, legal research, that sort of thing. Affidavits, court doc. Okay, but this particular page only covers the forms and publications, and there is a whole other area of the site that addresses litigation tools. Okay, so if we went back to the opening page of the site again by right-clicking on back home and going to the opening page, we can see that there's a whole other page here of litigation tools, and it's organized the same way. Okay, and we covered this on a different video, but it's got all the same columns, and instead of using form numbers, it uses tool numbers. So these are called litigation tools instead of forms. So, if you see a reference to something and you see what looks like a form number, it may be a litigation tool number. So you might want to go to that page instead of the forms and pubs page. And by that page, I mean the litigation tools page here. Okay. And we're not going to cover how to use this page because that's already covered in a different video. But we want to emphasize that there are two classes, so to speak, of items that have numbers on them. Okay. And they look similar, but one of them is called litigation tools. But everything we've covered so far is just the forms and publications only. Okay, so this is the forms and publications page would address mainly, things that you would use in an administrative process rather than a litigation process. When you're corresponding with an administrative agency in the government or in the legal profession, administrative agency mainly, or third parties. Okay, but if you're corresponding with other lawyers or you're filing court documents, then you want to go to the litigation tools page instead of the Forms and Pubs page. Now, some of the items, a very limited number of the items on this page, are useful in court. Okay, we don't label them as litigation tools, but they have a dual use. For instance, on the Memorandums of Law section here, on section 1.5 on the left, we can see, which is all the forms starting with 05.xxx, that we can see there are upwards of 50 memorandums of law. And each one of these are formatted for use in court to be attached to pleadings as exhibits. Okay? And they basically prove a particular point that you're trying to raise in a litigation. Okay? And you might want to read these at some point while you're preparing pleadings to file in court, because they have very useful reference information. Okay? And on that subject of using them while you're litigating, let's open up this one. We also want to emphasize one more thing, which is that, yeah, you can view these forms. Let's go back into the single page view again. You can read these, you can search them, and everything else, but there's one thing you can't do with these because they're copyrighted, and that is, cut and paste from the forms. Okay? It says copyright down here, first of all, in the lower left corner. All of the forms on our site are like that. And so if you try to select these here, you can't copy the items. You can't hit Control-C to copy. You can't right-click on it to copy. It just won't work. And that's deliberate, okay? It's deliberate because we do not want people distorting or corrupting what we've written or changing it, number one. We don't want them censoring it if they're in the government. We don't want them, removing a portion of it if they're going to file it in court with a pleading, or if they're going to file it as evidence in a pleading. We want to make sure they can't redact anything. Okay? If they're going to use it, they have to use the whole thing or nothing. And if they want to use a portion of it, or if they like one of these quotes that they got from, a law or a legal reference that we had, if you like one of those quotes, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to click on this link and find it and copy it from the place where you found it. Okay? That's how you're going to, reuse the stuff, because that's the only way you can reuse the stuff. You cannot take a subset of any portion of our copy-protected materials, and they're all copy-protected, and excerpt a portion of it, unfortunately. And we know that creates a lot of inconvenience for you people, but it prevents plagiarism. It prevents corruption of our research or misuse of our research by either you or the government. It also prevents people from commercially using our materials and selling them, because the main reason most people are going to want to cut a portion of a document out is so they can claim that they wrote it and put their own copyright on it, and we don't want them doing that. So there's lots of reasons why we do this. And we're sorry if that creates an inconvenience for you, but we really don't have any choice. And the abuses of the past have forced us to do this. So let's close this tab, and we'll go back to the opening page by clicking on Back to Home. This concludes our treatment of how to use the Forms and Publications page. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope it helps you to locate things quickly and easily. And we hope to see you on the site frequently. God bless you and have a good day.